thy commandments hast made me wiser than mine enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts.
I really got to re-record that one. Psalm 119. Because I really like that part of that song. I chose it today on purpose because of the subject we're going in here, because I want to remind myself of a certain fact. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Let's go right into the reading of James 3 and read through the chapter once more. We're just picking up at verse 13, but we're going to pick up the context. And I do think it is significant here because it is tied together, even with not considering the chapters entirely as, of course, because chapters were not inserted by the original author, neither were verses. But in this case, I don't think we need to. I don't like the hard break we have here, as far as in our analysis. So we'll continue with the context. My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle his whole body. Behold, we put bits into the horses' mouths, and that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven with fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. I always forget that's the rest of it. For every kind of beasts and of birds and of serpents and of things in the sea is tamed and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made. Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure. All right. And so now he's talked about the unruly evil of the tongue, and we spent more than an entire study on that subject. And it started off with talking about teachers and such. Now, when I put that song on, it's because when I think of generally wisdom and foolishness and he says strife and vainglory. That's interpersonal. Something's going on. But, inner strife. But outer strife is generally what we think of. Because that you see that. So you can't always see someone's inner strivings. But when you see envying and strife, in your heart or otherwise, whether it's manifest outwardly, or whether you see it in yourself. And that's the thing. The outward manifestation of it, things have gone too far. There's a failure. All right, when you feel it in your heart, that's the challenge. That's your challenge when you feel it in your heart, to not allow it to color your activities. The reason I use that song is I always liked that song. I understand more than the ancients. I understand more than my teachers. Because when I was young, I often, I've been very blessed. There were times when you could out-clever the adults. And it had a way of playing into, making you feel, myself, it makes one feel above oneself, right? Now, here's the thing, and that can be true. But now as an older person, I understand that. But what is my role? Yeah, I mean, is it for the older to come and just to stomp down on that? Because here's the thing. It's just like, well, they're getting above themselves and blah, 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 blah. It's like, is it that or is it your envy? Of course, they're just in the exaltation of their youthful discovery of things. But taking it in good humor and gently instructing the young, as far as in their, hey, they got one over. I thought, am I missing bits? Are stuff dropping out permanently? I'm going to have to check that. So I'm going to look at the time here and just compare because I want to know what's going on. But anyways, when someone came to me about the Trinity, and this is going to sound like tooting my own horn, whatever. It is. This is a little bit, but I want to use it as an example of how to handle this correctly. I can show, it's good to be able to show things other than mistakes as examples. I like to show more than just how I screwed up. So anyways, but I was screwed up. I had the wrong idea about the Trinity, right? And the particular was about things in Revelation and this. I don't want to go into the particulars really. But the person who was confronting me with this thing and asking me questions, and I didn't know why, because they had come to me out of the blue and they'd encountered me through my website and then went to me on Facebook. And I wasn't ready for a debate. And they started battering me. And it was, and the image on the screen that they used for a profile was of looked like a 20-something young woman. Kind of attractive, but it was just very young. And I thought that was the person who was challenging me. And boy, they were smart. And they were just, and it was like, I couldn't argue with them. But instead of being frustrated, I realized I couldn't argue. And I'm like, I think you're right. And I was like, oh, whatever, it's like, because to me, and I was like, whatever, it's like, I guess at some point, but the thing is, I've encountered people where I thought I was in the position of that young person and they've just come down on me with a hammer, and it wasn't actually a young person anyways. I just thought it was. It was actually a peer, someone about my age, but I thought he was a young woman. And I took the rebuke from a young woman as far as in my heart. So, and God is my witness. But the thing is, that's the thing though. It's like as smart as you are, there's even if God hides things from us sometimes and he sends challenges. People who are challenging to us, brethren and such, younger, maybe not as experienced. It is incumbent on the old. Those who want to be teachers have to have certain qualities. Like I said, for years, I didn't feel I was particularly qualified even to be a teacher. But now, it's like half of my children are adults. They could be inspected. It's not like anyone's running an inspection on them or anything. But at least I can claim qualifications that could be looked against. I could obtain them if I wanted to. People be like, what? I'm sure, letter of recommendation. Just short. Give me a paragraph. What do you think about them? I don't take credit for that entirely myself by any means. But, here's the thing. People often talk about, kids go wrong, they don't listen and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think they can be made to listen. And, I set out in my life to kind of prove that about kids and raising them. Because that's the thing is like, I think, and also that song I played, I understand more than the ancients. I remember I was playing that in church. And someone walked out at that point, one of the elders. And I didn't even notice it. But someone did, and they thought it was pointed. I behaved like babies. And I'm there, I'm a 20, I'm dealing with people who are supposed to be grown-ups. And there's bitter envying and strife. If you have knowledge, you have to have meekness of wisdom. That means to be able to, like I said, not to just use your wisdom like a hammer on everybody all the time. It's to use wisdom is, we want, like a lot of times people, like they'll say awful things to their children, but what are you trying to do? I have a sort of a goals-oriented approach to the way I talk to my children. Because the way I talk to them is going to result in an effect. I try to make a good effect. I'm not always really good at it because I'm not good at relationships, to tell you the truth. Not naturally. As far as like, period. Just say period, all right? But when we start bitter envying each other, where it's like someone does something that lifts them, because we all should be rising. We all should be ascending. We all should be, one hath a psalm, another has, a word, some knowledge. People in the church, when they are filled with the Holy Spirit, they often want to share things. Now, oftentimes people don't because they don't feel like they have any talent to share, and the things that are obvious that you share, like songs and stuff, require particular kinds of gifts. All right? But that's the thing, is like, that's one of the parts I'm not part of many churches, is because I've only found a couple places where there was any room even for my gifts. So when we have a worship team, no one ever was looking for anybody, So that's out. And then, and so what, I'm just supposed to sit there and spectate the whole time. Not that I don't envy anybody their position, because I don't really want to do all that work as far as the Sunday stuff. It's like to put on the show for people, because I feel like that sort of gives people a false sense of comfort. On Sunday, they're being served, but they need to learn about service. And maybe it's just their daily lives is their service. And I'll tell you what, in many ways, I've come to appreciate that, as far as serving God in the minutiae is not in any way not a service. Whatever you do, do as unto the Lord is true. It's like, because we're participating in a plan that unfolds in many small ways, and each small part we have in it is part. We shouldn't despise the small things. But oftentimes, people feel like they want to do something more so. Well, but as people are doing things, there's a sort of temptation at the top to sort of just keep it all tamped down. To keep things under control. I've always felt that, I don't, there's only a limited amount of time people have to like listen to Bible studies. I do an hour a day. Recently we passed a grim milestone. 10,000 hours of listen time. That's a lot of listening on this channel. A couple weeks ago we said 10,000 hours of listening. That's amazing. That's a significant amount of listening from people, and I think I've only recorded like 900 hours plus of things. So that means at least 10 people have listened to every single hour of it. Time with the things that are most important to them, as far as in the Lord. There's not, we need some Bible study, but it's like we don't have to, when we know the scriptures, it is the greatest thing we do is to act out in our lives what we've learned. I used to really obsess about the text and about internalizing the text, and I was a scripture music artist for years and still am. I still have scripture songs that are in the works and stuff, but I've kind of taken on some other stuff for now. But and I do think it is good to get it in you, but having that clear picture of it all is not as critical as just understanding on that base level what it's really all about. I mean, as far as like to have the impulse to do the right, to know in your heart through intimacy with the Spirit, when you encounter a situation, what's the right thing to do? To know, to be able to see like envy in your heart. When someone new comes along and they're talented and I see them, well, then redouble your efforts in that regard. But as long as it's not envy of their actual talent, you're talking about someone's effort or something like that. And also remember the effort itself is something, somewhat of a talent. To be able to persist. Patience can be developed, but it is like, but also to have there's a bit of a talent for it. I don't think all characteristics are fixed by any means, because we have an idea of development as believers, just like a child in the womb is developing, so we're developing. And I do think, of course, there is a fixed outcome in the Lord, but that's just, free will is very real for me. Only to God could it appear to be an illusion. You know what I mean? Because of his intimate knowledge of everything. That I think is the ultimate way to look at it, because it is true. Like for me to talk about destiny, I can only know the things about destiny, the things that shall be according to what God has revealed through his prophets. So that often is just a very sketchy image anyways. So, we see through a glass darkly in many, many ways. When we envy each other, when we have strife about it, in our hearts, we ought not to glory, because it's lying against the truth. When we allow our inner feelings to corrupt us towards other individuals, so that our attitude towards them is not based on a reality of what the interaction is, but sort of a prejudicial attitude from the get-go. You're already prejudiced to not to not what? Well, to envy and to be strife about it because of the differential. Because I'm not sure, because I think actually at first it's differences. I always think in terms of, because he talks about wisdom and people's opinions, but it can be other things, just things people have. It can be that someone's doing better. Their wife is more beautiful than yours. Or whatever. Their husband makes more money. They drive a nicer car. I generally like to think of it not in that materialistic sense, but more in the sense of the tongue. The way we interact with each other. The way we, have relationships with one another, especially within the context of brethren and believers. When we're truly being wise, because sometimes people will see someone they have a fault and they'll think wisdom is to go and correct them. And it may be. Wisdom is not to go and correct them, but wisdom is, how can I help my brother, okay, to the right thing? How can I best achieve my brother's betterment? Not just like I need to go tell him something that I want to say. Because what you want to say, is it carefully crafted to save your brother from their fault? Carefully crafted to capture their mind, to put them in a place of ready to listen to you? And what I'm saying is, if I am so wise, if I am so elder, if I am so gifted, if I am, I understand more than the ancients, I should certainly be able to handle you. You know what I mean? In a careful, without offending you. Without, Because on some level, you look at the scribes and Pharisees, they were offended at Jesus. Jesus was offended at them and their hypocrisy. And they were whitewashed tombs. They were religious hypocrites. They were offensive to him. And I don't want to be in a position of an elder and have a young person full of vim and vigor and mental acuity and intellect come out and look at me and say, what a hypocrite. Is my wisdom pure? Why? What is my motivation? Like I talked about those teachers, Bill Hybels, Ravi Zacharias. The typical powerful religious figure gets seduced. Not seduced. No, that's the thing. Martin Luther King was maybe arguably seduced. He had affairs. These guys were sexual harassers of their staff. Different. There's a power differential there. No one's ever accused any wrongdoing, as far as I know, of Martin Luther King. I mean, it's wrong to commit adultery. But as far as, it's a little different. I think it's a bit different. I know my wife would think it would be a bit different if some strange woman approached me seductively than if I was some strange guy approaching a woman seductively who wasn't interested in me. I think it's a bit different, don't you? Especially if they end the same, with someone getting slapped in the face, right? I wouldn't slap, but I would definitely create space. No one ever gets close to someone comes closing in on me like that. There's no way. And I don't want to blame the ladies for the guys getting too close to them. Maybe they can be kind of captivated by fear. Yeah, I understand the fear. You're working alone with some powerful boss, and he gets off his where he's supposed to be. It's not good to be alone with a man. And for a man, it's not good to be alone with a woman who's not your wife. Mike Pence and his wife, they have their rules about that. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I wouldn't. I have, I don't know if we've ever spelled it out, but I would certainly not want to be in certain situations. Yeah. Because it can get you in trouble. So, But sometimes people's motive, that might be considered partiality. Or I do think that, but whatever, purity of motive is a very important thing. Peaceable, gentle. I'm assuming gentle is the usual word we end up with for gentle. It might be worth a look. Oh, what happened? Oh, I get it. We're still here. This is from yesterday. Meekness of wisdom. It is first pure, then peaceable, then gentle. It's a word I'm not familiar with. Easy to be entreated. Sure, we'll try that. And there was another word I wanted to grab. Endued. Oh, endued with knowledge is one word. Okay. Epistemon. You've heard of epistemology? It's like, what is knowledge or something like that? Or how do we study the acquisition of knowledge or something like that, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a scholar of anything. I'm children. But not a scholar of anything. Well, if it means student, I am a student of a few things, but not when people talk about scholars. Epistemon, knowing or skilled, skillful, experienced knowing. Yeah, but we got our word epistemology from that. Okay. So endued with knowledge is one word in Greek. An epistem. Sorry. And then what was this? This was this is for gentleness. Seemly. Seemly. That's a word we don't use much in English anymore, but there's unseemly, which is, I always said, doesn't seem to be right. Doesn't seem quite right there. Unseemly. There was always sort of I thought it was like a little, like implied a bit of profaneness there, but I don't know what unseemly or what seemly means. Seems, but then there's equitable and yielding. Usages, gentles. What does helps word study say? Anything interesting? Fair, equity, justice. Wow. Equitable. And then here, when they say this is like an interpretation. To me, the word seemed like, what was the word actually? Epicasi. or epicase. Whatever. It's got too many syllables. And what did Strong say about it? It's down here. From epi and ico, appropriate. Yeah, I like Strong's word. Because that gets the idea of equitable also. Like appropriate. Now, our modern idea of equity, I don't even want you to think about it because that's all screwed up. Equity about equal outcomes and stuff. That's just some modern political nonsense. Equitable used to mean very similar to equal, as far as I know. It's just a slightly different direction of the word. Like you can't say, 1 equals 1 and then 1 acquit 1 or whatever, but it means like having about the same thing, like to make things fair. Of course, what your definition of fair is very important. Eupythes. Oh, that's like good, constantly attendant. You means, it's interesting. Okay, I'll believe it means that, but you is the prefix that means good, and Pythes sounds like Pytho, which is a word for faith. Eupythes. Oh, persuade. Yeah, sure. Pytho, persuade. Well persuaded. Yeah, so it mean like literally well persuaded. But it actually has the force of constantly attendant. Interesting. And that was for the word easy to be entreated. Easy to be entreated is this Eupythes. Well persuaded. They went for the literal meaning, well persuaded, whereas they were like constantly attendant. And here's the thing. This is what I talk about faith. I've talked about how you must keep the faith. We have to do, James is like, if you have faith without works, it's dead. It's not, why not focus on that thing? There is an argument to be made. It's like, hey, sometimes it's not easy to go for the hardest thing first. And he's not saying go for it first, but he is saying it's something that you don't want to leave behind. Because mastery of the tongue will mean that you found mastery everywhere else. And generally it comes that way. We do tend to master our bodies much sooner and more completely than our tongues. We will master our bodies much more completely. We may get to like 95% body under. I keep my body under. I bring my members into captivity to the obedience of Christ, right? But the tongue, be honest with yourself. Examine yourself. I'm not here to accuse anyone in particular, but I know when I examine myself, I still find times when it's like, yeah, every day I find my tongue, if not sinning, but definitely doing things out of my control. I'm like, why did I say that? I didn't want to say that. Just finding idle time to just start doing things. It is definitely an unruly thing. It is, it's not, and that's part of what gets you into trouble because it lulls you. And like I said, and as a teacher, I got to use my tongue to talk. And I have to use it. And so I got to be judged on this thing. The most unruly member of all. God knows there are things I regret in my Bible studies a couple times. Not that regret, not regret that I'll take it back. As far as I'm not going to take it down. I regret in that I'm like, okay, whatever, I rejoice. I will diminish. That's good. It's like that's because most of the stuff I feel bad about. I feel bad about things where I made mistakes. I'm like, and in the end, what it does is it diminishes me. Makes me a poor teacher. That incident did. But you know what? I will rejoice in that I am diminished and Christ is exalted. And like I said, it's like, I don't envy people their ministries. I don't want their tens. Do I want tens of thousands of people to be helped in as much as if I could help them? Yes. If what I say would be helpful to people, I want everyone who would be helped by it to hear it. But I don't want people to just hear it because everyone needs to hear what I got to say. And it's good to have that attitude. It's like we want to be pleasing to God and be content. I don't want to be slothful in my work, but neither do I want to despise if the work God has given me is not, because here's the thing. I look at these great ministries, and I feel like, okay, my judgment is that they've gone astray. So in what great ministry do you see, Paul, that you feel confidence oh, this is the none. None. So why do I want to become one of them and be another one that people put false confidence in? I don't desire the responsibility. The Lord knows my heart. I don't desire it. And it won't be given me. A pretty amount of pressure, let's say. Like in the sense of we're going to gentle. We could, to gently move a refrigerator requires a lot of force. But you don't want to be, we don't want to swing wildly at it with baseball bats to move it, because that, though it may create a lot of force, not in the right direction and shape. And so the same thing with people. When you're dealing with people, my foremost concern has to be the safety of the people listening to me. I don't want to make myself into a Moses to them. By being, I'm guarding my image carefully is just not on the agenda. Making myself out to be more than I am is not on the agenda. Gathering money to expand. What do I need money for? That's the thing, is I've appreciated help because I am not a wealthy person by any means. And when people give me help, it is appreciated. And I'm not, but the point is, the ministry doesn't need anything. I'm making it all right. I'm all right. I'm surviving. And you can be assured, anyone who gives, it's like you're not buying gold swimming pools. It's like, it goes into just the normal expenses of life. I'm going to start collecting thousands of dollars. What, so I can make you worry more? Because you have to do with less? I understand it's right for people to give people that serve. Like I said, if I was more of a full-time servant, I would gladly accept your donations, but I'm not doing that. Easy to be entreated. But I do it not, like out of some sort of weird I could take it if I want. I've always maintained if I want. I used to accept donations. There's no challenge. Forget the challenge. No challenges. But I never liked the way my old teacher used to harp on, I don't take a salary for teaching. I just love to talk about money. But just the point is, our motivations are important. Why we're here, what we want to do. I do what I want to do because I want God to be pleased with me. That I did the right thing with my gifts. You talk to, like it says, you go to your brother himself. Use some wisdom in determining how much rope to give somebody. And also how much of a busybody you're being. And whether or not that's part of it. It's hard to give advice on every single situation except to say, think what you're doing. Especially when you talk. When you're about to say, when you say things, after you said them, remember what you said and think about it. Sometimes people say such awful things, and then they don't even remember what they said, because they casually slashed at someone's heart. You want to be wise? Be full of mercy. Wisdom and mercy have a place together. Mercy resides with wisdom. Which is good for all of us. Wisdom that is from above, from the Holy Spirit, from God, is going to have mercy in it. You know why? Because you better be wise. You want to be, you want to show wisdom. Because we need mercy. And Jesus gave the parable, when we are merciless to others, we can expect the same judgment. Now the thing is, when you get to somebody, you can take people, like it says, the heretic at the first, he that is, what is it? After the second or third admonition, reject. Oh, who was that? The heretic? After the second or third admonition, reject. Let's see. I want to bring that verse up. Let's just try admonition. Admonition. I think as a man, right? Titus 3:10. Right? A man that is an heretic. Oh, I'm sorry. It won't go on the screen. Oh, it will. I'll make it. There we go. A man that is an heretic after the first and second admonition, reject. Make sure there's good admonitions, though. Lest you be, there's some impure motive. Now's my chance to get rid of him. I'll rebuke him most harshly, so as to offend and to make him feel, because on the other day, he got the best of me. Not in a rude way, but maybe just a little bit of slight. I felt slighted when I was corrected in that Bible study. I saw him commit a fault. No, I'm going to be so unpleasant about it that it'll cause them to feel unwelcome in the church. Because that's exactly how I want them to feel. I want to get rid of them. How dare someone, do anything to make me feel at all like uncomfortable or remind me that I'm human and make mistakes. Because people lose sight of why they're in church. A lot of times it's like a lot of things. It's like it's all about like politics. I really think it's a lot like politics. The politicians are there, and it's like, man, they don't even care why they're there anymore. They're just there to make money. I remember when I was young, I thought, wow, it'd be great to become a member of Congress, and you end up with like this pension forever, just for 2 years of work. But like your job is to go there and represent the people in like a real way. And most of them don't do it at all. As far as they go there and they don't represent like the district, they go there and they just allow themselves to be absorbed in the Washington climate. In church, I think a lot of times there's a church climate, there's a social environment. It has nothing to do with actually serving God and creating, doing some work in the Lord. Whether it be, people always want to go some missions or outreaches and stuff. What about just working on the people in your church that they could be better people? Maybe that's boring to people. I don't know. I've never gotten tired of it. I've never gotten done with the project. I need bettering. And, I don't want to beat myself up about it, but I got to keep after it. So the wisdom that is above is full of mercy and good fruits. If we're wise, it's going to bring forth good things. If I'm behaving in a wise way, it's going to have good fruit. It's going to bring about an end that is that is of the Spirit in some way, good. Like people, like they're going to hear the word. They're going to take the rebuke. It's going to be, the rebuke will have been said in a way that we gain our brother. That's what I would hope. That when I bring the rebuke to my brother, that is in such a way, in a humble way, that I gain my brother. I've had it where it isn't. I've been the person who tried to I rebuked. You can see it on my website. It's when I talked about time and John. Because it had to do with when I was at Spirit of Truth Church. Because there was this 1-year ministry thing that they were always on about as a bit of dogma. If it wasn't dogma, if it was just opinion, I would have nothing more to say about it. but it was, we believe that Jesus had a 1-year ministry. That's how I was hearing. And I didn't. I didn't really have I didn't believe he had a 3-year ministry. I didn't have a belief about it. I just had an inkling that, like, yeah, it was like 3 years, wasn't it? And I've never really examined in the gospel, but I thought there were times when it seemed like it was longer than that. There's times it seemed it was shorter than that, but I never really looked at it. Well, then I did. I looked at it in John. Well, I looked at it in the other gospels, and I realized, boy, yeah, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it sure seems like it's just like Jesus becomes the Christ, and then at the end of a little while, he gets crucified. Like, it's just like this little bit of time. But in John, there are various time factors, and I went over these in detail. From chapter 1, I went over the entire text of John, finding every reference to time and the passage of time to see if we could piece together how long the ministry of Jesus was. And I presented this work, and the work was done in a completely it's in a completely bland, matter-of-fact way, just examining in time, But being told you're wrong is offensive in and of itself. I mean, it is an opportunity to be offended. To be told you're wrong, especially to be shown you're wrong. And here's the thing. When you know someone is trying to show you you're wrong and you're certain you're right, it is so hard to give them even a moment of your time. Meaning in your brain, to actually open your mind for a second and say, okay, wait a second. Maybe I'm wrong. Go. And then listen. It's not easy. I'm not always willing. I remember the other day, I'm not interested in being generous with an active enemy. I don't care what it is. You want to define it and all that stuff. It is the antithesis. It's anti-Christian. That's all that matters. Yeah, there's such a strange differential on my time between the recorded and the live. It is so off. Oh, I think it's because I started... never mind. Okay. Maybe my stream yesterday was the same. Now, without partiality. We talked about respecting of persons being a form of partiality. Partiality is even wider than that. Respect of person has to do with someone's station in life. They have a certain station in life, you give them more respect. They got more money, usually, or they're important. If they're important, they have more money. Politicians have more money. They're all rich. Isn't that odd? They're all rich. They used to have like sort of just the citizens, where you could send a Davy Crockett off. Even as recent as Harry Truman was just kind of an average guy that became president. I think they created the presidential pension because they didn't fancy the idea of someone who had been the president going off to live in poverty, which was about what was going to happen to him. And without hypocrisy. All right, partiality, but to be partial, to your family. I mean, obviously, meaning in a situation in where, for reasons like where you have an unrighteous, there's nothing wrong with taking care of your family over people you're not responsible for, as far as like the normal sake of life. Like I provide daily. When I provide my own daily bread, I have to provide daily bread for my children. When I see someone naked and destitute, I should feed them. But providing daily for other able-bodied people is their responsibility when they have it. Someone who works and is doing things they should provide for themselves. I should not have to worry about them. But I'm talking about like you're in church and let's say, someone is accused of rape. Someone's accused of robbing, right? Because he's the son of one of the elders, he goes to jail. But then the son of the pastor is accused of rape, and he doesn't go to jail. Because it's whatever. I'm not saying it was partiality per se, but there's partiality sometimes, isn't there? I mean, there of course, everyone has a family bias. But when it comes to doing the right thing in judgment, or where something's been done, we cannot be partial in judgment. We're not supposed to. whether it be family member, friend, or foe. We're not supposed to take one person's part over the other when it comes to right and wrong in the things of God. We're supposed to take God's part, which is the right, which is to judge between people, just judgment, without hypocrisy, without being, fake about it. Because you start judging based on partiality, that you're going to have to engage in some hypocrisy. You're definitely going to have to pull some hypocrisy out of your pocket and lay it out there for everybody to see once you start getting down those roads. Nothing more disgusting than hypocritical wisdom, which is not, people think of hypocrites as do, say, and do not, which is true, which is partially hypocritical. But that's not the essence of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, hypokrites in Greek, which I'm assuming it's the normal word. I'm just going to check here real quick. I'm not going to go on a deep dive. It's one more. On hypokritos. Hypokritos with the A prefix, like no. Like unhypocritical. Should I go on the deep dive? Not really. Hypokrites means literally, krites is the word for like judge. It's a word that has like two part. Hupo is under and the other one's judge. So it doesn't mean to underjudge. You know what I mean? Or underdetermine. It means to act, oddly enough. Act under a false pretense. Like under a mask. So you're being fake. Because it's one thing to honestly say, like, look it. You shouldn't do so. Like for someone to say, like, oh, you shouldn't drink. Drinking's wrong. But then I've got a drinking problem. Okay. That could be, that's not quite hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is to get up there and to be like, people who drink are disgusting sinners and have no place in the church. We ought to hunt them down and put them into special camps where they learn to be sober. And then I'm a drunk. That's hypocrisy. It's not saying like, look, it's not right to drink, and then I have an issue, or to say, look, it's not right to commit adultery, and I have lust issues. That's not hypocrisy. That's just giving voice to the truth. But when you stand up there and act all righteous, the wisdom of God has imbued me with the righteousness to never look upon a woman to lust. And those who look upon women to lust are the scumbags of the earth and ought to be condemned to hell. But you must, or whatever. It's like, it's the act of like themselves, they're making themselves seem like that righteous beacon of God and truth and justice. Look to me, all ye. I will show you the right way. And you will, but I am, because I'm ahead of you, probably, hopefully. I've run into a lot of elders that were very disappointing along my way. I was young. I was looking for elders all my life. My wife, too, looking for that elder woman who would be that mentor or whatever. Not exactly, but just anybody who would like the mom, And I had a good, I had a good father, but he didn't like lead me on. And I kind of wanted to be led. I wanted to find, and maybe it is good I didn't find it. Because the men I did find people, but they weren't the right people. They didn't have it right. They had their own vainglory and strife within themselves, their own envy. How dare you question my doctrine? I settled the question. How dare you even question? How dare you say that impulse means now I can't even read what you wrote because you dared question me. Maybe I did it wrong. Probably did something wrong. I know it wasn't perfect, all right? But I was younger. That's my point. More is expected of you, all right? More is expected of me. I thank God that I know it. I thank God that I know it. Because so many don't, you know? I know it. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. You know, it's the action. You want to be righteous. You know, we don't want holier than thou. We want people going out and doing things that are actually righteous, actually helpful, actually edifying to other believers. And that's sown peacefully by those who make peace. Meaning, it's a way you recognize righteous fruit because it is sown by people who are behaving in a peaceable way and are making peace with people. You know what I mean? They're not creating envy and strife. You know, that's why I can still question my fruit on some level. Like I said, you know, I don't know. I let others judge it. People have read it and said they did not judge I said anything amiss. I haven't read it in a long time. I won't say that. I won't say that. I said, I bet I could have done better. They hits them with it at the end. You don't start off saying, look, I want to prove you're wrong, you dummy. That's why if I could give myself advice, don't tell them you're going to prove them wrong. Saying like, we're setting out to prove you right. And here's how we do it. And then at the end, put in the conclusion like, I guess you're not right. I can't prove it. Can you help me prove it? Show me where I've gone wrong. Instead of asserting that he was wrong, I should have just asserted my evidence. That's my assessment. I did screw up. I could have done better. I don't blame myself because he should have done better as the elder in his own way in receiving it. Should have done better. It's fine to say those young people, they need to learn humility. Well, so do old people. So do old people. If you haven't learned it yet, you still need to work on it. You know? I like becoming an elder. And I can dress. I can't wait till I'm 70 because I will dress you old people down. I can't wait. Send me up there, Lord. I want to talk to the elders. Don't let their graves go down in peace to the grave. That's all I've had much to say to them. A peaceable fruit, it comes from peaceable people who are making peace. You know, there's peace involved. It brings peace. It brings contentment. It brings joy. It brings edification. Righteous fruit. That's what we need to produce for the Lord. All right. Thanks for joining me today in this study. We'll pick it up in chapter 4 tomorrow. Thanks. Until then.
After thy commandments hast made me wiser than mine enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation.